Hi, welcome to Munro TV. My name is Timothy Jenkinson, and today I'm joined with one of our senior actuaries, Eddie Teron, and we're going to talk about how foreign earnings affect loss of income or loss of support calculation. Eddie, maybe you can tell us a little bit how these foreign earnings impact a calculation, or what it actually entails.
Sure, Tim. So let's look at three examples. We could look at a foreigner who has been involved in an accident on our road and therefore suffered a loss of income, or his dependents suffered a loss of income, that income being foreign in a foreign currency, and therefore we need to take that into account. A second example could be of where a foreigner has been treated by a local doctor, but where there was malpractice involved, and again there might be a loss of income or loss of support because of that malpractice. And then thirdly, we could look at a situation where a local citizen lives locally and also earnings in a foreign country.
So Eddie, I understand in these calculations there are a lot of things to take into consideration. Maybe you can run through a couple of the key considerations.
Sure. Let's look at four of the major ones. We'll look at tax, mortality, inflation and interest, and then link to that one, exchange rate. So starting with tax, we could have an individual that lives in the United States, and in the United States, depending on which state you live in, you could be subject to state taxes and federal taxes. So we need to take all these types of nuances into account in our calculations. Another example could be of a local citizen that is earning abroad, and in that case there are certain rules and regulations that come into play that governs whether that income is taxable or tax-free.
I understand there are these taxes that you have to take into account, but how would you deal with that practically?
Yeah, you need the actual tax tables. So let's say in the example of the United States, we know that this person earned income historically over a period. We actually need the tax tables for that period that he was earning income for. And then looking forward, we take the actual tax tables, the most recent tax table, and then project that forward with inflation.
So Eddie, I understand the tax regimes play a big role, but surely mortality is also going to play a big role in this calculation. Like, for instance, someone from a first world country to someone from a third world country, where first world, they got first world medical facilities, they eat differently, their whole culture is different to someone, say, from Africa who doesn't have the same medical facilities, who is living on far less finances. Could you elaborate further on that?
Sure, that's a very good point. So we do definitely need to take account for people that live in different countries because they've got different rates of mortality. And the way we do that, similar to using tax tables, we need to use the mortality tables applicable to those individuals in the specific country. Now that gets tricky because in first world countries, those mortality tables might be readily available and we can just take it and use it in our calculations. But in other countries, those are much more difficult to get a hold of. And then we need to make some assumptions and judgments. Another key aspect to take into consideration is how interest rates and inflation rates are different between different countries. Now, we know that they are different, and that can be quite tricky to take into account in our calculations. But fortunately, there's a theory called the theory of purchasing power parity that allows us to simplify those calculations. Now, in basic terms, what that theory says is it says that over time, the differences in inflation rates between two countries is going to be borne out by the differences in the exchange rates for those two countries. So what that allows for is a cancelling out of sorts, and it allows us to use our standard assumptions, especially for net discount rates when doing our calculations.
So Eddie, you mentioned the exchange rate. Does this have an effect on the calculations?
Yes, it does. So that brings us to our final point. Exchange rates do have a major impact on these calculations, especially because the road accident fund cap is denominated in rands. So we do need to convert back to rands in these calculations. Now, the way that we do that is by using actual exchange rates on the date of calculation, and fortunately these are quite easy to get hold of even for third world countries.
Thanks for watching Munro TV, and thank you, Eddie, for giving us further insight into foreign earnings.
Pleasure, Tim. I hope it has been insightful. For more information, please check out our other videos or click on the link below.